Bertolt Brecht was a German playwright, poet. He had to flee the Nazis. He grew up in the Weimar Republic, fled the Nazis. He came to the United States, but was put on a blacklist by the House Un-American Committee because he was very sympathetic to communism and the Soviets. He moved back to East Berlin after World War II. And in later life, it appears that he finally realized that communism wasn't what he thought it was. He wrote a poem called The Solution. It's very famous because of its ending, and I want to read you his poem. After the uprising of the 17th June, the secretary of the Writers' Union had leaflets distributed in the Stalin Allee stating that the people had forfeited the confidence of the government and could win it back only by redoubled efforts. Would it not be easier in that case for the government to dissolve the people and elect another? This has become a rallying cry over years for people who realize that their governments and the elite hate them. The government would prefer to dissolve the people and elect another, as opposed to the people dissolving the government and electing another. A buddy of mine reminded me of this today with regards to a story out of Sarasota County, Florida. The Sarasota County School Board is sick and tired of hearing citizen complaints, so it banned criticism of individual board members during meetings. At a meeting last week, Vice Chairwoman Jane Goodwin, standing in for Chairwoman Shirley Brown, who lost control of the meeting, directed police to remove citizens who criticized specific elected officials during the public comment period, according to the Sarasota Herald Tribune. This is not McCurdy's Comedy Club, Goodwin told the Herald Tribune. This is a professional board meeting. It has to be tightened up in terms of what people are allowed to say. It's Ben Montgomery writing at Axios. This is not a good look. The board, according to one man, single-handedly activated and motivated every single mom, dad, and voter in the county based on their actions. This isn't just the Sarasota School Board. This is happening around the country in school boards, and it is not, contrary to what a lot of people in the media would have you believe, it's not actually just a bunch of conservatives protesting. This is actually across the board. It's liberal parents, conservative parents. I was elected to a city council. Worst job I ever had. Part-time job, full-time work, barely any pay. And miserable. You know, the only thing worse than clients, I was a lawyer and I hated the clients and needed to leave law because I didn't like dealing with clients, and voters will come up to you in the grocery store when they forgot to roll their trash can down and demand that you send the trash truck back by their house, you, a member of the city council, because they were too lazy or forgetful to roll their trash can down. No, I'm sorry. It doesn't work that way. I'm somewhat flippant here. It was an honor to get elected. I didn't really want to get elected. No one else wanted to run. No one ran against me. Had someone else run, I would have dropped out, but nobody did. So I was there. I was there for 3 years, 3.5 years of a 4-year term. I had to leave early because I got a job in radio and I couldn't be on radio and on city council at the same time. And so I left, and I was glad to leave. I gave up a part-time job for a full-time gig on radio this is now the longest job I've had. But while I was there was public comment time, and the public could comment before the city council met. And you said there, your council meeting, you could get out at midnight if a bunch of people showed up. And I was always consistently opposed to shutting down or regulating public comment time. There were always everyone had 3 minutes. You could say what you wanted for 3 minutes. And some members of council wanted to reduce it to 2 minutes or 1:30 seconds or a minute. Some wanted to get rid of it altogether. Some wanted to put it at the end. And I was perfectly fine with leaving it as it was, 3 minutes, unlimited, come as you are. And if you wanted to berate us, berate us. And sometimes I was singled out. It's never fun. Now, I typically have my laptop there, and I was working during public comment because, honestly, it's public comment time. If you really want me to listen to you, you know how to reach out to me. I'm publicly accessible. Most of this was just performance and stunt. But it was their right, and I think we had to take it. Even if I wanted to ignore them, they still got to be able to speak, and it was streamed live on TV, all their insults at us. What's happening now, though, is that school boards around the country who have gone woke, who are pushing critical theory, who are being called out by not just conservative parents, and this is the thing that's getting missed by so many people. It's not just conservative parents. The media is trying to dismiss it, and the school boards are showing themselves to be very heavy-handed. This comes at a time that there are more and more efforts to go to homeschooling, to private schools. The amount of people supporting school choice is on the rise, and the media is just oblivious to it. The media does not seem to care. And they're going to be made to care on this issue. They're going to be made to care for a couple of reasons. Number one, the media and the Democrats who don't like this are going to have a reckoning with nonpartisan school board races around the country when conservatives sweep into office. If you're interested in doing that, I want you to stick around for the next hour of the show because I'm actually going to explain to you the general parameters for getting yourself elected if you want to run for the school board. I used to do this for a living. More importantly, school boards themselves are discrediting themselves, but it's not just school boards either. It's other governmental entities. They're discrediting themselves with the people, and they're showing their utter contempt for the people. We see this in the media with the unvaccinated. The number of people in the media and in the press who, in government, in politics, in the bureaucracy, who refuse to even entertain the idea that someone who got COVID doesn't need both rounds of the Moderna or Pfizer vaccine is absurd. In fact, Dr. Fauci on television didn't have an answer for why he wanted everybody to get them. If you've had COVID, you may only need one shot. In fact, in Germany, in Israel, and I think Great Britain, if you've previously had COVID, they tell you only take one shot. I've got a friend who took the first shot and had a miserable reaction to it because they'd previously had COVID. And that kind of is the norm, that if you haven't had COVID, the second round of the shot can make you kind of sick. The first round, if you've had COVID, typically makes you sick. And the government doesn't want to talk to you about it. And they want to bully you into getting the vaccine. They don't want to try to incentivize you getting it. They want to bully you into getting it. And the media piles on every day. In the last hour, I talked about Nicki Minaj going after Joy Reid for attacking Nicki Minaj for spreading disinformation about the vaccine. I mean, I think Nicki Minaj isn't that bright of a person, but Joy Reid coming after her, Joy Reid is an idiot. The government would prefer to dissolve the people and elect another. We are on the verge of civil destruction in this country, disruption, decay. When the media blasts small business owners who protest because they want to reopen their businesses and claims that if they get COVID, they need to not be put on a ventilator. They need to get to the back of the line. But then praises the unmasked protesters after the George Floyd riots, that your civil rights come before COVID. There's clearly a double standard, and there's clearly one side that's held in contempt and not the other side, and it's the small business owners who keep our economy going. When the media and the Democrats demand that we keep paying people money not to go back to work, and it's the small businesses suffering and closing, your favorite restaurant goes out of business, your favorite barbershop, your favorite small business can't stay in business because people aren't showing up to work, and somehow it's the employers, not the employees, who are to blame. That's not sustainable. When the local school board won't even hear parental complaints about them going woke, about them telling kids if they're white, they're oppressors, and if they're black, they're always going to be oppressed. Where I live in Georgia, there are two big counties, and one is Republican-leaning, Forsyth County. The other is trending Democrat, but they've both embraced critical theory. And one of them, Forsyth County, had the audacity to change the name from critical theory to diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's the same damn thing. But now they can say with the straight, well, we're not teaching critical theory. We're just teaching diversity, equity, and inclusion. Who could be opposed to that? You're teaching critical theory and you just changed the name and you think we're too stupid to understand. But I use them as an example because they're close to home, but this is happening across the nation. It's like with Common Core. With Common Core, there was this situation where cities and states didn't abandon Common Core. They just changed the name and said, well, we're not teaching Common Core. We're teaching Constitutional Core. Who could be opposed to that? No, you idiots. We know what you're doing. You think we're too stupid to know. And it provokes civic discord. At some point, the elected officials of the country have to understand they are beholden to the voters. And they have to stop patting them on the head and ignoring them. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez showed up at the Met Gala with a dress that says tax the rich. She was fawned over by everyone. It's like $30,000 to go to the Met Gala. It is the richest of the rich. And they are behaving like Marxist caricatures of capitalists with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez there, them all fawning over her when she wants to take their money. She was the only honest person there. People on the right are mocking her for going, but this is a woman who really has the convictions of a communist. She's opposed to getting rid of the SALT, or bringing back the SALT deduction. The SALT deduction is the deduction for people who live in high tax states like California and New York. Rich people who live in blue states are allowed to deduct their state and local taxes, SALT, state and local taxes. The Republicans capped SALT at like $40,000. Alexandria Ocasio wants to get rid of the cap altogether, and she wants to continue to tax. But the major progressive leaders in Congress, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they want to bring back the SALT deduction, the unlimited SALT deduction. They're telling you they want to tax the rich while also giving the rich people in blue states a major exemption, and they think you're too stupid to catch on. At least she's honest. It was funny to see her, the commie, go to the Met Gala last night wearing a dress called Tax the Rich, and all the rich people are head patting her saying how sweet she is, how great she is, what an activist she is. When the revolution comes and they're against the wall, she'll be the one ordering fire. She's a true believer. They're not. They're the caricatures of capitalists the Marxists knew that would undermine capitalism, hanging out with a real Marxist who really does want to take their money. And the right was laughing at her. What the right should have been doing is laughing at the rich people who invited her because she's the one who's coming for them. And they're too stupid to realize it. The elite in this country now live in bubbles. At the Met Gala last night, it was a bunch of well-to-do rich people not wearing masks. You, however, your kindergartner walking down the street in New York City better have a mask on or else, buddy, you're going to get child services after you. In California, the whole impetus of the recall was Gavin Newsom forcing everyone to stay home while he was going out at night to fancy restaurants, forcing every kid in California to wear a mask while his kids were at summer camp not wearing masks. It was a hypocritical double standard that people got upset about. The elite in this country do not like you. It is more and more clear. They think you're the Hicks and Rubes who must be governed and are yet ungovernable. And when the elite, and the political elite in particular, and the media elite, hold you in contempt when you hold the votes, things don't end well for them or, frankly, for you, unless we again start actually showing each other some grace and respect each other. But right now, it looks like we're headed to a very bad place in this country because the government would prefer a different people, and the people certainly prefer a different government. And all of that comes to a head in November of next year in the midterms.